So, the verdict is in, and depending on which headline you read, Sean Diddy Combs is either a free man who beat the feds or a convicted felon who's about to go to prison. So which is it? The truth is, both are kind of right. And that's the story the media isn't taking the time to explain. So today, we break down what actually happened in that courtroom, what it means, and why this verdict is far from the end of the story for one of the music's biggest ever icons. All right, let's cut through the noise. For weeks, we heard these explosive, almost cinematic accusations. The US government wasn't just going after Diddy for one single crime, they tried to paint him as the head of a criminal organization. They hit him with a RICO charge, and for you that don't know, that's Racketeering, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations Act. Think mafia bosses, organized crime syndicates. The government's argument was that Bad Boy Entertainment wasn't just a record label, it was a certain type of trafficking ring by force. So alleged he used violence, drugs, and coercion to force women into these you-know-what acts. These two charges could have meant life in prison, and on those, the jury says not guilty.
Today's a great victory. It's a great victory for Sean Combs. It's a great victory for the jury system. You saw that the Southern District of New York prosecutors came at him with all that they had. They're not stopping, but one thing stands between.
So that's the acquittal everyone is talking about. His lawyers can and will frame this as a massive victory. They'll say the government overreached, that this was a case about a toxic lifestyle, not an organized crime conspiracy, and this is the part getting lost in the shuffle, okay? That's not where the verdict ended. The jury also looked at two other charges. These charges are based on a century-old law called the Mann Act. In simple terms, it makes it a federal crime to take someone across state lines for the purpose of prostitution. So the evidence here wasn't about proving a massive conspiracy. It was about plane tickets, hotel records, and financial transactions to ladies of the night who were flown to Diddy's parties. It was less Godfather and more accounting. And on those two counts, those two, it was guilty. So why the split? It really comes down to the burden of proof, okay? So to convict on RICO and trafficking, the jury needed to believe beyond a reasonable doubt that Diddy used force, fraud, or coercion as part of an ongoing criminal enterprise. They heard weeks of testimonies, but apparently didn't see enough hard proof to make that leap. It's one thing to believe someone is a terrible, abusive partner, it's another to legally prove they're a mob boss. But for the Mann Act charges, the proof is likely much more straightforward. Was there a flight from LA to Miami? Yes. Was a person on that flight a paid escort? Well, yes, they were. Did Diddy's organization pay for it? Another yes. It's a paper trail, and the paper trails are much harder to argue with than conflicting witness testimonies about what was happening inside someone's mind. The prosecution couldn't prove he was Al Capone, but they proved he violated federal transportation laws. So what happens now? Well, Sean Combs is now a convicted felon. He was denied bail, which means the judge considers him a potential danger or a flight risk, and he will remain in custody until sentencing. So each of the two guilty counts carries a maximum of 10 years in prison. He won't get the max, we all know that, but prosecutors are pushing for a sentence of over 4 years. His legacy is in tatters, his businesses are crumbling, and his freedom is very much so still on the line. He dodged a life sentence, but it's a cold comfort when you're trading your mansion for a federal prison cell. So in the end, the verdict is just as messy and complicated as the man himself. It wasn't the clean win Diddy's team hoped for, and it wasn't the total takedown the government wanted. It was a split decision. That leaves everyone with something to argue about, He beat the most monstrous charges, but he didn't walk away clean. And that right there is the difference between a headline and the truth. Now, I want to hear from you. Does this mixed verdict feel like justice, or does it feel like he got away with the worst of it? Let me know what your take is in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, consider subscribing for more opinion-inducing content. Be sure to check out our ever-growing collection of videos, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.